There is something God wants you to understand right now before you scroll away, before you doubt yourself again, before you believe the lie that what someone did to you has permanently damaged your future, because the truth is the pain you experienced was real, the betrayal was real, the silence was real, the rejection was real, the confusion was real, but what was never real was the idea that their actions had the authority to cancel your destiny. Because what God has spoken over your life cannot be erased by someone else's weakness, cannot be delayed by someone else's jealousy, cannot be destroyed by someone else's misunderstanding, and cannot be rewritten by someone who never had permission to hold the pen of your story in the first place. And maybe you are here today because someone walked away from you when they promised they never would. Maybe someone replaced you when you thought you were irreplaceable. Maybe someone doubted you when you needed support. Maybe someone betrayed your trust after you gave them your loyalty. Maybe someone spoke words over your life that made you question your worth, your value, your purpose, and your future. But what you didn't realize in that moment is that while they were hurting you, God was protecting something inside you that they were never meant to carry into your next season. Because sometimes the greatest confirmation that you are moving toward destiny is not who stays but who leaves, and sometimes the most painful exits in your life are actually divine interruptions sent by heaven to prevent the wrong voices from traveling with you into the place God prepared for you long before you even knew how to pray about it. And the enemy wants you to believe that because someone hurt you, something inside you is broken forever. But God is saying what they touched they could not take, what they damaged they could not destroy, and what they tried to end they actually helped redirect. Because destiny does not depend on human approval. Destiny does not depend on someone else's loyalty. Destiny does not depend on whether people understand you, support you, validate you, or even stay with you. Because destiny depends on God, and when God decides to move your life forward, there is no betrayal powerful enough, no rejection strong enough, and no heartbreak deep enough to cancel what heaven already scheduled for your future. And the reason this message is reaching you right now is because God knows there are moments when the memory of what happened still tries to speak louder than the promise of what is coming next. There are nights when you replay conversations in your mind, wishing you had answered differently, wishing you had seen the signs earlier, wishing you had protected your heart sooner, wishing you had not trusted so quickly, wishing you had not believed their words, wishing you had not invested your time, your loyalty, your love, your prayers into someone who eventually walked away as if you meant nothing. And the hardest part about that kind of pain is not just what they did, but the question it leaves behind inside your spirit, where you begin asking yourself, if they could treat me like that, then what does that say about me? And that question is exactly where the enemy tries to plant his deepest lie, because the moment you start questioning your value is the moment you start shrinking your expectations, and the moment you shrink your expectations, you start accepting less than what God already prepared for you. But today God is interrupting that lie and reminding you that what someone did to you says nothing about your destiny and everything about their assignment ending in your life. Because not every person who enters your story is meant to stay until the final chapter. Some people were only meant to reveal your strength. Some people were only meant to expose what needed healing inside you. Some people were only meant to teach you how to recognize your worth. And some people were only meant to leave so you could finally walk forward without carrying the weight of someone who was never strong enough to walk beside the version of you God is creating right now. And the truth is, if they had stayed when they were not meant to stay, they would have slowed down what God is accelerating in your life today. Because sometimes what feels like loss is actually alignment, and sometimes what feels like abandonment is actually protection, and sometimes what feels like rejection is actually redirection, and sometimes what feels like heartbreak is Actually, preparation for the kind of connection that will never make you question whether you are valued, respected, chosen, and seen, because God does not remove people from your life to punish you. He removes people from your life to position you, and the moment you understand that, something powerful begins shifting inside your spirit, because instead of asking why did they hurt me, you begin asking what is God preparing me for next. Instead of asking why did they leave, you begin asking where is God leading me instead, and instead of asking what did I lose, you begin realizing what did I avoid and what did God save me from that I could not see at the time. And there are things God protected you from that you will only understand later, when the right doors begin opening, when the right people begin appearing, when the right opportunities begin aligning, and when the peace you lost starts returning in ways you never expected, because destiny always carries confirmation, and when God is moving your life forward, He does not leave you guessing, He leaves evidence. And one of the clearest signs that God is still writing your story is the fact that you are still here, still breathing, still hoping, still listening, still searching, still believing that something greater is ahead of you even after everything you went through. And that alone is proof that what they did not stop you, because if their actions had the authority to cancel your destiny, you would not still feel this pull inside your spirit telling you that your story is not finished yet. And the reason that feeling has never disappeared is because God never stopped working, even when people stopped believing in you, even when support disappeared, even when encouragement became silent, even when doors closed, even when relationships changed, even when plans collapsed, and even when your heart broke in ways you never expected. Because destiny is not fragile, destiny is not temporary, destiny is not dependent on perfect circumstances. Destiny is anchored in the promises of God, and when God places something over your life, no person has the authority to cancel it, delay it, rewrite it, or replace it, no matter how painful their actions were, no matter how confusing their choices seemed, and no matter how deeply their absence affected you. Because what God started in your life, He already planned to finish, and what God promised your future, He already protected from people who were never meant to walk into that promise with you. Listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal to you right now is something the enemy hoped you would never understand. The pain you experienced was never meant to destroy your future, but to redirect your steps towards something greater than what you originally planned for yourself. And even though it felt like betrayal, even though it felt like rejection, even though it felt like the ground beneath your feet suddenly disappeared and left you standing alone in confusion and silence, I was still working behind the scenes in ways your human eyes could not yet recognize. And the very person who tried to close the door on your heart was unknowingly pushing you toward the exact doorway that leads to your destiny. Because what they meant as harm, I already turned into preparation. What they thought would weaken your spirit, I already transformed into strength inside your soul. And what they believed would delay your purpose actually accelerated your alignment with the calling I placed on your life long before they ever entered your story. And this is why you must stop asking why they hurt you and start asking what I am building inside you through the hurt. Because every tear you cried in secret was being counted. Every lonely night you thought no one noticed was being recorded in heaven. Every moment you questioned your worth was being replaced with a deeper understanding of who you truly are in my eyes. And the truth is, the pain did not come to stay, but it came to shape you into someone stronger, wiser, more spiritually aware, and more prepared than you were before they walked away. Because destiny cannot be cancelled by betrayal, and purpose cannot be erased by rejection, and the future I wrote for you cannot be rewritten by someone else's decision to leave your life. And right now I need you to understand that the silence you experienced after they hurt you was not abandonment but protection, because I was removing voices that were distracting you from hearing mine more Clearly, I was separating attachments that were limiting your growth. I was pulling you away from paths that would have delayed the blessings waiting ahead of you, and even though your heart interpreted it as loss, your spirit was actually being guided into alignment. And this is why what you thought was the end was actually the beginning of a transformation you were not expecting but desperately needed. Because sometimes the only way I can move you forward is by allowing someone else to step aside, and even though it felt sudden to you, it was already planned in heaven before it happened on earth. And I know there were moments when you questioned whether you would ever recover from what they did to you, moments when the memories replayed in your mind like echoes you could not silence. Moments when you wondered if trusting again would ever feel safe or possible, but what you did not realize in those moments is that I was quietly rebuilding your confidence piece by piece and restoring your identity layer by layer, because your destiny requires a stronger version of you than the one who first trusted them, and sometimes the breaking is necessary before the rebuilding can begin. And what you thought destroyed you actually revealed how powerful your spirit truly is, because you survived something you once believed you could never survive, and now the strength inside you is proof that I am preparing you for something greater than what you lost, something deeper than what you imagined, something more aligned than what you were holding on to before they hurt you. And this is why I am telling you today, do not let their actions define your future, because they were never given authority over your destiny, and they were never given permission to determine how far you will go in this life. And even though their absence left questions in your heart, their departure created space for answers you could not receive while they were still standing beside you. Because sometimes the greatest blessing I can give you is distance from the very thing you believed you needed the most, and sometimes the protection I send does not look like comfort at first, but it always leads you toward purpose in the end. And right now, even if you cannot see it clearly yet, I am positioning you for opportunities you could not have reached while you were still connected to them, and I am opening doors that require the version of you that only exists after the pain you walked through, and I am strengthening your faith in ways that will carry you further than your emotions ever could, because destiny is not fragile and purpose is not temporary, and the future I prepared for you cannot be stopped by the actions of someone who was only meant to be part of your journey for a season and not for a lifetime. And this is why I need you to release the weight you are still carrying from what they did, because the longer you hold on to the memory of their betrayal, the harder it becomes to step fully into the promise I placed ahead of you. And the truth is, you were never meant to stay in that chapter forever. You were meant to learn from it, grow through it, and walk forward stronger, because the story I am writing through your life is still unfolding, and what is coming next will make sense of everything that once confused you, everything that once hurt you, and everything that once made you wonder if you were forgotten. Because you were never forgotten, not for a single moment, and the same hand that carried you through the heartbreak is the same hand that is now leading you toward restoration, toward clarity, toward peace, and toward a destiny that no person on this earth has the power to stop. Because what they did to you did not confuse me, it did not surprise me, and it did not cancel the promise I placed over your life long before they ever entered your story. And I need you to understand something deeper right now. The pain you felt was real, but the power they thought they had over your future was never real. Because destiny is not controlled by human rejection. Destiny is controlled by divine appointment. And I have been arranging things behind the scenes even while you were crying in silence, wondering why everything felt like it was falling apart at the same time. And the truth is, the moment they walked away thinking they closed your chapter was the exact moment I began writing a stronger one that they would never be able to touch again. because I never allow betrayal to become your ending when I have already planned restoration as your testimony. And what you called a setback was actually me moving obstacles out of your path that would have slowed your purpose if they had stayed. And I know there were nights when you questioned yourself and asked what you did wrong and whether you were the reason things broke the way they did. But listen carefully now. Sometimes what leaves your life is not punishment but protection, not loss but preparation, not rejection but redirection. And I needed to separate you from what could not walk with you into the future I prepared before you were even born. Because where I am taking you requires strength they could not understand and faith they were never willing to carry with you. And even though their words tried to weaken your confidence, I never removed my hand from your life for even a second. Not one moment did I stop guiding your steps. Not one moment did I stop protecting your heart from completely breaking. Not one moment did I stop working on the miracle that is already moving closer to you right now, even while you are listening to this message. And the truth is, they thought their absence would destroy you, but their absence actually made room for something greater that I am sending into your life at the perfect time, because I do not replace people randomly. I replace them intentionally with what matches your calling and honors your spirit and strengthens your journey instead of draining it. And I know you felt alone when everything changed so suddenly, but you were never alone because I was standing beside you in every tear you cried and every question you whispered in the dark when nobody else could hear you, and I was already preparing the answer before you finished asking the question. Because my timing is not delayed even when your heart feels tired waiting for clarity, and I need you to trust this right now. The pain did not waste you, the silence did not weaken you, the confusion did not stop you. It actually positioned you for a breakthrough that will make sense of everything you went through when you finally see how I connected the pieces together in ways you could never see at the time. And the person who hurt you believed they were powerful enough to change your direction, but they never understood that your direction was already written by me and cannot be erased by anyone's opinion or behavior or decision to leave your life unexpectedly. Because when I place purpose inside someone, no human action can cancel it, delay it permanently, or steal it away from them. And that includes you right now, even if you still feel uncertain about what comes next. And I want you to hear this clearly in your spirit today. What is coming toward you is stronger than what walked away from you. What is being prepared for you is greater than what you lost. What I am building in your life right now is more aligned than anything you had before. And you are closer to your turning point than you realize, even if everything still feels quiet around you. Because silence is often the place where transformation begins before anyone else can see it happening, and I am strengthening your heart in ways you will only understand later when you look back and realize how much you survived and how far you actually came without even noticing it at the time. And soon you will see why certain doors had to close and why certain people could not stay and why certain conversations ended the way they did. Because every ending I allowed carried a hidden beginning inside it that was preparing you for the next level of your life that is now starting to open in front of you little by little, even if you cannot fully recognize it yet. And I want you to keep walking forward with confidence now, because the story I am writing through your life is not finished, and the chapter ahead of you is going to reveal strength you did not know you had and blessings you did not know were already on their way toward you. And God is saying to you right now that the moment you stopped understanding why everything felt delayed was actually the moment heaven started rearranging things behind the scenes in your favor, because what you thought was silence was not absence but preparation, and what you thought was rejection was not punishment but protection. And the truth is, the person who hurt you never had the authority to cancel what God already wrote about your future before you were even born, because destiny is not fragile and your purpose is not temporary and your calling is not something another human being can steal, no matter how deeply they misunderstood you or how suddenly they walked away from you or how unfairly they treated your heart. And there were nights when you questioned your value and mornings when you questioned your direction and moments when you secretly wondered if maybe you were the problem, but God is saying those thoughts were never the truth, they were only the shadow created by pain, trying to make you forget who you are becoming. And even when doors closed without explanation and people changed without warning and plans collapsed without reason, heaven never lost track of you, not even once, because every tear you cried in private was being counted and every prayer you whispered when nobody else could hear you was being recorded, and every moment you chose to stay kind instead of becoming bitter was building something powerful inside your spirit that the right people in your future will recognize immediately. And what you don't realize yet is that the delay you are walking through right now is shaping your strength in a way success never could, because easy seasons never create deep faith and comfortable paths never create strong vision, but this season where nothing makes sense is quietly transforming you into someone who cannot be shaken by temporary storms anymore. And God is saying the person who hurt you was never strong enough to stop your destiny, they were only part of the lesson that prepared you for the level you are about to enter, because where you are going requires clarity, requires courage, requires emotional strength, requires spiritual awareness, and most importantly requires the ability to recognize who truly belongs in your life and who was only passing through to teach you something important. And very soon you will notice that the same situation that once made you feel weak will become the story that reminds you how strong you actually are, and the same silence that once made you feel forgotten will become the evidence that God was working in places you could not see, and the same delay that once frustrated your heart will become the reason your future finally makes sense. So do not confuse this waiting season with failure, because waiting in God's timing is never wasted time. It is alignment time, it is preparation time, it is protection time, and it is the quiet moment before something bigger than you expected begins to move toward you. Faster than you imagined sparkles, and when it finally arrives you will understand why certain people had to leave, why certain plans had to break, and why certain chapters had to end, because everything that looked like loss was secretly making space for something that actually belongs to you and cannot be taken away from you no matter what anyone tried to do. Glowing star, and God is asking you right now to keep walking forward with faith, even if your steps feel small, even if your progress feels slow, even if your heart still carries questions, because what is coming next in your story will not just restore what you lost, it will reveal why you were chosen to walk this path in the first place and why your destiny was never in danger even for a single moment. There are moments when you sit quietly and wonder why the pain had to come from someone you trusted so deeply, why the disappointment arrived from the very place you expected comfort, and why the betrayal happened right when you were finally beginning to believe that life was changing for the better. But what you could not see in that painful moment was that heaven was not ignoring you and God was not abandoning you. He was repositioning you. Because sometimes the person who hurts you is actually the person who reveals what was never meant to stay in your life forever, and even though their words tried to weaken your confidence and their actions tried to slow your steps and their absence tried to create fear inside your heart, God was already writing a new chapter that did not include their control over your destiny, because your future was never placed in human hands. Your future was placed in divine hands long before anyone ever entered your story, and that means no rejection can cancel what God has already approved for your life. No misunderstanding can erase what heaven has already scheduled for your season, and no betrayal can silence the voice of purpose that still speaks inside your spirit even when everything around you feels uncertain. Because what they meant to break you actually became the moment that strengthened your spiritual vision, and what they meant to stop you actually became the reason you started listening more closely to God's direction. Instead of people's opinions, and even now there are doors quietly preparing to open that you cannot yet see, and there are blessings already moving toward you that you did not even know were being arranged behind the scenes, because God never allows pain without purpose, and He never allows separation without preparation, and He never allows loss without planting something greater ahead of you. And the truth is, the person who hurt you could never touch what God protected inside you, because your calling is deeper than their misunderstanding, and your assignment is stronger than their rejection, and your destiny is larger than their opinion. So even though your heart needed time to heal, and even though your mind needed time to understand what happened, and even though your spirit needed time to regain confidence again, God was still working every second to align your steps with the future that was always meant for you. And what looked like a delay was actually a divine adjustment, and what looked like a closed door was actually a redirection towards something better, and what looked like the end of something important was actually the beginning of something eternal that cannot be taken away by anyone who was never assigned to walk beside you in the first place. Because when God decides to move you forward, He does not ask permission from the people who misunderstood you, and He does not wait for approval from the ones who doubted you, and He does not slow down His promises just because someone tried to discourage your faith. Instead, He strengthens your heart quietly and prepares your path patiently and restores your confidence gently, until one day you suddenly realize that the same pain that once made you cry is now the reason you walk with courage, and the same rejection that once made you question yourself is now the reason you trust God more than ever before, and the same person who once hurt you no longer has power over your emotions, because God has already replaced confusion with clarity, and fear with strength, and doubt with purpose. And this is the moment when your destiny begins to move faster than your past can follow you, because what God planned for you was never meant to be stopped by temporary people with temporary understanding and temporary vision. Your story was always meant to continue beyond that moment of hurt and into a future filled with restoration, elevation, connection, and peace that no human decision could ever cancel. And right now God is saying to you, listen carefully, because what is happening behind the scenes of your life is bigger than what your eyes can currently see, and the reason certain doors suddenly closed without explanation, the reason certain people slowly disappeared from your circle, the reason some plans collapsed at the last second was never punishment, it was protection, because God already walked ahead of you into the future you are worried about, and He removed what would have destroyed you before you even arrived there. And this is why your spirit kept whispering something is changing even when nothing looked different on the outside, because heaven had already started rearranging your path long before you noticed it. And the enemy thought that confusion would make you quit, the enemy thought delays would make you doubt the promise, the enemy thought silence would make you believe God forgot you, but what the enemy never understood is that silence is often where God builds the strongest miracles, because transformation rarely announces itself loudly. It usually begins quietly inside the heart, and the truth is, you survived moments that were supposed to break you. You walked through nights that were supposed to stop you. You carried pain that should have ended your faith, yet somehow you are still here, still breathing, still believing, still moving forward, and that alone proves that something supernatural has been covering your life the entire time. And God is saying the season you are stepping into now will not look like the seasons you left behind, because what once delayed you will now accelerate you. What once confused you will now make sense. What once hurt you will now strengthen you, and the people who misunderstood your silence will soon understand your elevation, because when God begins restoring a person, He does not restore them halfway, He restores them completely. He restores their confidence, He restores their peace, He restores their direction, and He restores opportunities that seemed permanently lost. And someone listening to this right now has been secretly asking God for a sign, asking Him if the promise still belongs to you, asking Him if the waiting still has purpose, asking Him if the dream is still alive. And God is answering you in this moment. Yes, the promise still stands. Yes, the waiting still matters. Yes, the dream is still moving toward you, even if you cannot yet see the evidence. Because faith is not built on what you see, faith is built on who is guiding you, and the same God who protected you when nobody understood your struggle is the same God preparing a breakthrough that nobody will be able to ignore. And very soon you are going to look back at this exact season and realize that what felt like delay was actually alignment, what felt like rejection was actually redirection, and what felt like weakness was actually preparation for a responsibility greater than anything you have carried before. Because God never wastes pain, He converts pain into power, He converts confusion into clarity, He converts waiting into wisdom, and He is doing that in your life right now. Even if the process feels slow, even if the answers feel hidden, even if the path feels uncertain, keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing, because heaven is closer to responding than you think. And the moment that everything shifts, it will not happen quietly, it will happen in a way that confirms to your spirit that God was working for you the entire time.